Hi. So welcome to our Facebook Live tonight, and tonight is very special because we're doing a joint Facebook Live.
If we can get working on this one, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty here as a computer geek. So, but we'll keep going.
So while I'm waiting for Craig to be ready, let me introduce Craig. So Craig is from Craig the Computer Geek. And like I said, we're trying a bit of new technology tonight. So seeing he's a computer geek, I know he'll have it up and running really
This is
soon.
the first time I've done it. We'll get there. So let's keep going.
So I invited Craig along tonight to do our first ever joint Facebook Live, both of us doing it on our channels at the same time. I wanted to follow on from my recent blog post about the NBN, the National Broadband Network, and to have him here so that I can ask him all those really embarrassing questions that I really should know the answer to, but I was really too scared to ask. And that's something that Craig really specialises in, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So how do you get the name Craig Computer Geek?
Okay, it is a little bit of a long story, but I've been in IT for quite some time, probably longer than I do care to admit. When I first moved to Melbourne in the late 80s, early 90s, I started life as a computer programmer, but everybody kept coming up and asking me, "Hey Craig, can you please fix my computer?" And it was
the thing I do.
I was at my auntie's place, and one of my family members was there as well. And it was the same thing. "Craig, can you please fix my computer?" So I fixed her computer. Lo and behold, my other family member says to me, "There's no way I'm ever having my child grow up to be a computer geek."
The same one that you just fixed their computer for. Yeah,
no, it was the other family member. I won't say who it was, but another family family member was there, and yeah, that's what she said, and I was a bit hurt by that at the time, but I've decided that to start the business, I decided to own that name, I guess, much in the same way as you did with Miss Frugalese as well.
I did indeed. My former mother-in-law used to criticise me all the time for being too frugal. It was the same lady I used to give a lot to. Let's not go there. Apparently I was too frugal and that was a problem. But I've now owned that.
Yeah, that's right. Take something that's not meant all that kindly, but yeah, make it something that defines who you are, I guess.
So tonight we're going to talk about NBN, but before we talk about NBN, we might talk a little bit about all these other acronyms, you know, ADSL, VDSL, yeah. VDSL2. So, you know, when I moved to my, you know, city in Canberra, walking distance from Civic apartment in January, yeah. You know, I sort of didn't quite get it. I thought I was getting VDSL, like I had getting ADSL. And then, you know, about 6 months later, I get this, you know, letter in my post. Congratulations, you've got NBN. And I had no friggin' idea what NBN was or whether my life would really be as revolutionised by NBN.
That thing that was developed on the back of a drink coaster on an aeroplane one time, I think. But yeah, it's the reasoning behind it, I guess, was to give everybody in Australia access to fast broadband, which is, I guess, is a noble pursuit. But in a country like Australia, it's probably a bigger job than the government at the time really envisaged. Mm-hmm. And after the change of government, you know, they decided that, you know, this is going to take too long. It's going to be too hard. So let's try and at least get something out there. So the first government, I guess, and I don't want to be political at all, but I don't think either side has themselves in glory. But it is what it is, as they say, and we are going to have something. But we do have a lot of challenges in Australia for a project like this. It's not like Singapore or Hong Kong or somewhere like that, where you've got a lot of people in a small space, and it's much easier to bring services to everybody. So yeah, we've got a lot of people.
So what actually is it? You know, like a lot of cities now are, you know, offering free Wi-Fi. You know, even Canberra's got free Wi-Fi. hang off my free Wi-Fi. Like, you know, why do I need a super fast NBN? Like, what's so special about it?
Well, I guess free Wi-Fi. You get what you pay for. That's one of the.
Well, it's free.
It's one of the things I
never worked for me.
So yeah, if you got a lot of people using free Wi-Fi, well, the performance isn't going to be the greatest. So yeah. The idea, I guess, behind the NBN was a noble one, and it will. There will be a lot of benefits for that, but it is a bit of a difficult challenge. Yeah, so yeah, you do get what you pay for, but you know it's better to have something that's going to be reliable, and the technology will develop over time as well. So, you know, we do hope that there's going to be a bit of future proofing in that, and I think there is, but it is going to be an improvement, and technology is increasing. Or the rate of speed of technology advancement is increasing all the time. So we all expect, you know, to have our Netflix and to be able to you know, YouTube and stream all our you know, stuff down and just have it you know, come just like that. Whereas you know, well,
at least my boys do. That's for sure. I've only recently discovered Netflix, and there's no going back now as far as they're concerned. Beyblade movie.
I remember back in the old days, you know, back in the mid-90s, when we first had internet. I was telling this story before we started to Serena, how I was just downloading a nice simple picture. It was a nice picture, and it was about 3/4 of a meg, but it took me about 3/4 of an hour. You know, these days,
wow.
Be nearly instantaneous. So
yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was talking to a colleague at work about the whole, you know, ADSL, VDSL thing, and she's down in southern Tuggeranong, which people watching this who are not from Canberra, that's a far southern Canberra suburb, and not only do they have no ability to get NBN for about 2 years or so, but also they don't really have good internet connections. So if she wants to watch a Netflix movie, she's got to download it about 4 hours in advance.
At least it's on VDSL down there too, unfortunately. So yeah.
So what is actually VDSL? Because there's been some debate in the media, you know, and some people say, look, if you've got VDSL, you know, you don't need it. You're probably better off with VDSL than you are with NBN.
Yeah, I describe VDSL without trying to get too technical, but the V stands for very high bit rate.
Okay, that is technical. That's good. That's good.
It's about as
technical. So I wanted you here.
So so ADSL is the standard and has been for a while, but VDSL is sort of unique to Canberra because it actually uses the old Transact infrastructure.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's not. You know, southern Tuggeranong being one of the newer areas, it didn't actually get rolled out there, and in Gungahlin, which is the sort of the outer north part of Canberra for you know, viewers that aren't actually living in Canberra, they're actually getting NBN as at the same time as the suburbs and the, you know, the houses or everything. So they're getting NBN straight away.
Wow! And
those poor sort of not in the older areas which had the VDSL, we're actually missing out on both counts. So yeah, it's not the most ideal situation, but we do hope that you know, in a couple of years, as you said, then you know, everybody will have access to that. It is happening, and there is there's actually a blog post I saw in the last day or two by the CEO, Bob Murrow, I think it is, from other technologies like fibre to the curb. So instead of
fibre to the curb, not to the node, to the curb.
Yeah, to the node, to the premises.
On the curb.
There's all these sort of things. So yeah, it's not the what they call the gold-plated standard, but you know, at least the faster internet is actually actually being rolled out. So it's probably better than nothing, but it's not as good as, I guess, as what some people would have thought or hoped for when it was first announced.
So now, what about ADSL? Because when I first moved here to my apartment in January, it turns out I'm actually quite close to the Exchange. Now, I kind of didn't notice that because, you know, I've walked past on, you know, the corner of Lonsdale Street, which is a fairly, you know, hipster kind of inner suburban coffee cafe, craft beer, gin and tonic bar, interesting area, which is great for dining. And, you know, it hadn't really dawned on me that that was actually the Exchange, but someone pointed out to me and I realised that was actually quite unique because it's only a kilometre away. So when I was actually the speed was fast enough to watch Netflix. So could I just stay on ADSL? Like, did I need to move to NBN when I got the letter in the mail?
Yeah, you really don't have much of a choice with it because a lot of the old infrastructure, I guess, in the same way that when TV originally started off as analog and then they went to digital, there was quite a long time where the two systems were running in parallel. The analog system has been switched off. A similar sort of thing is going to happen with ADSL, and people will be migrated to the NBN.
Will they get a bit of notice?
They will get some notice. There's going to be a lot of people that'll be riots in the streets.
Yeah, because, you know, this was a bit of an issue because when I rang my provider and said, look, NBN, they initially sort of said, oh, well, you know, even though you got this letter in the mail saying no connection fee, we can't do that for you because you're still on contract with ADSL. And I think they were hoping that I'd pay the break costs for ADSL, then also the connection fee. And I went, really? You're really going to provide me ADSL for the full 24 months on the contract, even though I've got the NBN letter? And that kind of changed. So I put that out there. You know, one thing to consider when you're, you know, being frugal, you know, obviously want to get the best deal. When you're considering different providers, you know, you are at a disadvantage if you're already with one provider and you're on a contract.
Yeah, I was with one telco and I actually gone on to VDSL. I won't name the telco who I was with for a long time. I think I was pretty fortunate that I had been on that, and the cost of actually breaking that contract was worthwhile for me. So you've got to weigh up those options as well. So, you know, how much am I going to have to pay if I do break that contract? You know, compared to, you know, what it might cost me to go on the NBN or DSL, now and get the benefit of faster speeds, because for me that's important in my line of work, and a bit too frustrated. I want to throw my computer out the window, but for for some people it might not be so much of an issue. So you got to weigh and do it on a case-by-case basis, and hopefully, you know, the kids aren't going to be screaming too much. I want to watch Netflix, and all this, the speed is too slow. But it's making sure you get, you know, you're comparing apples with apples, as they say. Shop around. Make sure you get the best deal, and if you're not happy, with how things are going, or you know, sort of being fobbed off, there's always the telecommunications ombudsman. And in my past experience, I found once they get involved, things tend to happen pretty quickly.
Well, hopefully it doesn't come to that. So for a non-technical person, like, how do you shop around? So, you know, how do you find out? I mean, you know, are there limitations? Like, you know, presumably not every provider operates in every single area. Are there some limitations in that way?
Not so that I've found. Generally, you can. A lot of their websites, you'll be able to actually go on there and find out if their service is available in your area, and just don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't just take what they say face value. But this is what I want. What can you do for me? Because there is still a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of providers. some better than others. We've all, I guess, had our horror stories with every telco we have. And
what is this with Australia? There's so much competition, yet their service is all really bad, or at least it seems to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things, I guess. But yeah, don't be afraid to give them some grief if you're not getting the service that you should be getting, and yeah, don't be afraid to shop around and ask. You just don't know what you don't know.
So there's been some press as well about Telstra and then more recently Optus refunding customers because they've been overcharged for their NBN service. Have you seen some of those reports?
Yeah, that's one of the horror stories you do see. Time with people being
named them, but it's been out in the media.
Overcharged for various services and as they're getting their systems, and maybe the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And it's just being persistent. Don't take any crap. And if you're not, as I said, if you're not getting the results, don't be afraid to get the Ombudsman involved.
Lovely. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you, Craig. You've given me some great ideas, and there's a lot of issues I wish I know more about back in July. Although I think at least I knew enough to at least know that I needed to move to NBN and to ask some questions. And sadly, VDSL wasn't available in my area.
Yeah.
But no, thank you. That has been lovely. Joint
Facebook it's been good fun. Thank
live you. With you. So thank you. And for some additional tips on how I went about negotiating my NBN transition, you can check out my blog post, which is day 4 of my Cashed Up Christmas special that I'm running this month. So thank you very much.
Thank you.